All right. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining the Pax8 Microsoft Monthly Update. I cannot believe it is already November, but as always, we have a ton of changes in the world of Microsoft that we want to bring to you as Pax8 partners. On the agenda today, we're going to go through some really quick introductions. We've got program updates. We have a new vendor to Pax8 that makes a great integration with Microsoft, Blackpoint. We've got some great representation here for you today from them. We're going to talk about Defender for Business. Closing it out, we always want to talk about all of the things enablement going on here at Pax8. All right. So for those of you that I have not had the pleasure of meeting, I am Kristen Fehrenbach. I'm your Senior Director of Microsoft Go-to-Market here at Pax8. We're going to hear about programs with Ashley Moretti. Enablement always comes from your man, Vandit Patel. And Defender for Business, that is going to come from Britton Tremblay. Super excited to hear about all of these topics. Gave you a little bit of the update about Mackenzie Brown joining us from Blackpoint. Really excited to hear about what is going to be happening new at Pax8 with them. But without any further ado, I want to go ahead and introduce Ashley Moretti. If you've not had the chance to meet her, welcome on, Ash.
Good morning, Kristen. Thank you so much. Welcome, everybody, to the Microsoft monthly update for November. If you've joined us in the past, the program section has been very lengthy, and so very excited to share this morning that we're only going to be covering just a few topics. So we really want to focus in on the legacy to NCE migrations that will be happening starting the new year. So please throw your questions in the chat. We know that there's a lot going on here, and we want to make sure that you feel the most prepared that you can in order to make sure your business meets your customer needs. So with that, let's jump right on in. Earlier this fall, so October 2023, Microsoft started giving more updates to the legacy to NCE transition. In October, they announced that the public sector offerings, so that is the government, education, and nonprofit, would not be involved in the January 2024 auto migrations. So what this means for you is that if you do have those legacy public sector subscriptions, so you have customers who are utilizing those products, you will not be a part of the auto migrations starting January, and your auto migrations will begin starting July of 2024. And more information around those auto migrations, both from Microsoft and Pax8, will come out as we get closer to summertime, summertime for us, not summertime for everybody on this call, so apologies. Closer to January 2024 or July 2024. The biggest thing to note here, that if you have a legacy subscription, and that may be a commercial subscription, and it has those public sector add-ons, that entire customer portfolio will not migrate. It's got to be all commercial in order to migrate starting January. So if your customer has a mix of commercial and public sector, know that those will not migrate starting January, and instead that will also be included in the July migrations. This is brand new, hot off the press for Microsoft. So again, just want to clarify, if your customer has a mix of those commercial and those public sector products, they will not move until July 2024. And the reason for that is because not all of the public sector offerings will be available on NCE starting January. Microsoft will be doing a slow rollout of public sector offerings on new commerce experience in January. Man, the two J's, they picked winners there, right? The July and January. So again, public sector offerings will start to roll out on new commerce experience at the new year in January, and will slowly go through the following months. Now, if you have customers who are still fully commercial only on legacy, what will happen for them if if you let Microsoft do the auto migration for you and you don't self-migrate. Microsoft will move all subscriptions from legacy to NCE at their renewal date. If you have legacy base and add-ons, they all will have the same renewal date. So that's something nice that you don't have to worry about keeping track of. But if you go through the auto migration, Microsoft will be putting those subscriptions on an annual agreement. So the commitment term will be for 1 year. And then they will match your existing billing term. So if you're paying monthly for your customer, then they will do annual subscription with a monthly billing option. Or if you pay upfront for your customer, they will be on an annual commitment with upfront billing. So again, it's important to consider whether or not you want to self-migrate and take ownership of the migration before your renewal date, or allow Microsoft to do it for you. Because if you want to be on those monthly billing options with monthly commitment terms, what we call the month-to-month, you will have to do that yourself. Don't worry if you miss that window and Microsoft does an auto migration for you and you get put on an annual agreement. You do have 7 days after that transition happens to go ahead and change your annual agreement to a month-to-month. You also at that point can also change how many seats you have and even to change product if you need to. But again, Microsoft will move everything existing seat count, product type to NCE for you with that annual commitment term. And after that 7 days, you're locked in for an entire year. If you do a self-migration and you move to that month-to-month, just know that those month-to-month subscriptions do incur a 20% premium. So they will be more expensive to be on the more flexible option. All right, I think we're good to keep moving, so I'll move on to the next slide. So at Pax8, being a partner with us, we want to make sure that if you choose to self-migrate, it is super easy for you, and you can do so with a click of a few steps. We know that your focus is on selling and on ensuring your customers have the right products and services and getting new customers. So spending time doing self-migrations we want to make sure that it's not time consuming for you or your employees. So Microsoft has adopted Pax8 has adopted the Microsoft transition tool, and we have integrated it straight into our platform. So here on the left hand of the screen, you can see inside of a legacy subscription, and if you click that upgrade button where the red arrow is pointing, it will allow you to go through the migration steps with just a few clicks, and you'll be able to pick seat counts, billing and commitment terms, and make sure you're on the right product. It will auto-populate the NCE version of your legacy product for you. And again, super easy with a few steps. There's no reason why you shouldn't be self-migrating ahead of time, because again, self-migrating allows you to choose the right billing and commitment terms for your customer before being locked in by Microsoft. If you go through the self-migration tool, I see Kristen has a question, so Kristen, let me just wrap up 2 points here and then we can get to that. If you go through the self-migration tool, you will not need to reassign your licenses, so that's very nice. The Microsoft Admin Center will pick those licenses up. However, it will create a new subscription ID. So it's very important that you're aware of this, because if you use a PSA integration, you will need to go in and resync to capture the NCE version in your PSA. But Kristen, I'm assuming we have some questions.
We do, and I know we've talked a lot about GDAP on these calls, but if somebody's having issues with GDAP, is that going to cause any issues in the self-migration process, or is this just specific to the subscriptions?
Yeah, so GDAP this is a great question, because Microsoft's thrown out so many changes over the last 2 years or so, and so understanding what affects what is really important. So as long as you have the reseller relationship established on the customer tenant, that is all that is needed in order to do these migrations, because the reseller status allows you and Pax8 to sell into that end customer tenant. GDAP is the security practice to make sure that the tenant is the most secure. Previously, DAP and the reseller relationship were combined, or they were seen as one when really they're two. And so with GDAP, it's really shown as two separate relationships. You have the GDAP relationships, and then you have the reseller. And all that is needed is that reseller relationship, because that's what controls the provisioning into the tenant. The GDAP piece of it is the security only. But great question. Okay, last but not least on this slide, if you have a subscription that is on an annual upfront payment on legacy, meaning you paid for the subscription the full 12 months at one time, if you use the upgrade tool, because you prepaid, the upgrade tool captures your legacy renewal date and will not start a new commitment for you. The reason for this is that you've already prepaid for an entire year, and you most likely are on like a cyclical calendar for those subscriptions. Therefore, it inherits that legacy renewal date. And so if you have 3 months left on your legacy before you when you self-migrate, your NCE commitment will only be for 3 months. If you want to start new NCE commitments, you can do so. You just cannot use the upgrade tool, and you'll have to purchase the NCE version separately and then go in and cancel and get a prorated refund on your legacy. And again, these are for those who have the annual upfront, meaning they paid for the full 12 months of their legacy. But again, it's still super easy to go in and click the NCE equivalent and purchase that separately, and then go ahead and cancel the legacy. We still make that easy for you. All right, so these are just some best practices that we want to share with you. Sorry. Okay, so apologies. So we have some best practices for you from upgrading from legacy to NCE. Partners are encouraged to do so. We want you to self-migrate. Again, we allow you to see the renewal dates in our platform for your legacy. So we want you to be prepared for the auto migration. But again, doesn't mean you can't self-migrate. And the reason we encourage you guys to self-migrate is because we want to ensure that your customers are set up the way that they need to be. NCE is commitment bound, and with those self-migration or those auto migrations that Microsoft is going to be implementing, you will be locked in on an annual commitment if you do not self-migrate. And so self-migrate allows you to be on that flexible month-to-month option. Again, we make it easy in our platform, so we hope that that is something that also encourages you to self-migrate. We already talked about the prepaid annual legacy commitment, so again, we want to make sure that you understand how those work. And then legacy base and add-on subscriptions, remember, they all have the same renewal date. So if you have multiple subscriptions for a customer, say you have, Business Basic, and you got Defender for Business, right? You have multiple subscriptions. Legacy has the same renewal date. So they all captured the base renewal date or the earliest renewal date. And so they will all auto migrate at the same time. So again, if you want to move maybe from Business Basic with Defender for Business to Business Premium, which includes that, you would want to self-migrate and to ensure that you can optimize the licensing on NCE. Microsoft-led auto migrations will happen at the renewal, which Microsoft considers at 12 a.m. UTC on the renewal date. Now, for most regions, that is the night before. And so just want to also make sure you're aware of that even though, say, you're on your renewal date would be today, 11/6, if you were a Denver-based company, that would happen actually at 6 p.m. last night, so on the 5th. So again, 12 a.m. UTC, make sure you check out what time that is for you in your region, but Microsoft, that is the trigger for the Microsoft renewals. And then you can only self-upgrade or self-migrate using the the tool that we have built in our platform for products that have an equivalent for NCE. So again, those public sector, the education, government, and nonprofit will not have eligible offers until January 2024. Hi, Kristen.
Hello, Ashley. You knew you weren't going to get too far without a couple more questions. So
No worries.
We're asking about the GDAP tool, and is it down or is it going to be fixed soon? They were under the impression that we were having a couple of issues. So if you could just give us an update on the GDAP tool itself.
Yeah, so the GDAP tool that we've built into our platform is currently getting a couple updates. It did not pick up the Microsoft-led transition for GDAP. And so with that, we're trying to figure out with the help of Microsoft how we can utilize APIs to tap into that information so the tool captures those GDAP relationships. Because again, Microsoft did those transitions. Those transitions were not done through Pax8. So if that's what you're referring to, you still can check to see if GDAP is established on your end customer tenant by going into the partner center. And so that's one way to check, but we understand and we are working to fix that.
Excellent. We've got a couple more. So when is the co-term feature that's offered by Microsoft going to be available for subscriptions through Pax8?
Yeah, so co-term is currently in the works with Pax8. Our goal is to have it launched by what we call high volume or high renewal season, which is Q1 of next year. And the reason that we're aiming for that is because we know a lot of you have annual subscriptions that need to be co-termed at their renewal. And so, and that's to align those end dates, right? So that way your add-ons have the same end date as your base and you're only managing one end date for your customer. So we're working on that. Stay tuned, more information to come. I am going to plug something right now, which we don't have this month on our slides, but we send out a Microsoft monthly update, like a newsletter. So same as this, but in a newsletter format. And so that would be the place to be looking for those co-term announcements. So if you don't check that, please do so. I think we can drop some links in the chat for you guys for all regions to be able to access that. But that's what you need to know kind of email that we send out per month.
Excellent.
But thanks, Kristen.
One more. I'm going to say that, and then there's going to be a flood of them coming in, but I want to make sure that we go through this one. So if this partner doesn't have their Microsoft licenses through Pax8 yet, is there anything that they need to do for NCE? So maybe they're looking to hopefully transition those over. Is there anything that they need to do with their current distributor? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so if your licenses are being purchased elsewhere, whether that is direct, like web direct with Microsoft, or you're purchasing through another partner, whether that's a direct partner or a distributor, and you're looking at potentially purchasing maybe through multiple ways or through, consolidating through another provider, the best advice I have for you is just be aware of that that partner, that distributor, that web drive, like their auto migration policies, because not everybody is managing this the same way. Pax8, our stance is this is your MSP, so you should be able to choose how you want to move to NCE and when, and make sure that you have your customer set up for success. But other distributors may believe that there are other ways to make it easier for you, such as moving everything to NCE in a forced migration, so not an auto migration, a forced migration on a certain date. And so my biggest piece of advice is just evaluate what is best for you and what the offers are out there. And if you're looking to come to Pax8, We do have some great resources in market for you where you will lead you to become a partner with us. It will walk you through what our NCE transition looks like and how we handle NCE at Pax8. And then if you're ready and you become a partner, it's just as easy as purchasing those NCE subscriptions through us.
All right, just to confirm, nonprofit on legacy will not auto convert until 2024. Is that correct?
Everything will be converted in 2024, but it will be July 2024. And that's at the renewal date after July 2024. So if your renewal date is August, if it's December, right, that's when in 2024 it will happen. So again, commercial starts January at the renewal date. Starting January, and then the nonprofit, which we call the public sector, which includes government and education as well, then that will happen starting the renewal date after July. Okay, I think Kristen went off camera, so that means we're just going to wrap up here. All right, so just some NCE best practices, things that we want you to be mindful of. If you have NCE already or you don't have NCE yet, you don't know these things. So upgrades, so this is when you are already on NCE. So the upgrade, like you're on NCE Business Basic and you want to go to NCE Business Premium. When you do that, that is not considered a new order. So it does not open a 7-day window to make changes. So upgrades are permanent. When you upgrade, it retains a subscription ID, but if you have another subscription of that same product on the customer tenant, you may end up with duplicate subscriptions, which is okay. It just means that there's 2 to be mindful of. Trials are for 25 seats no matter what. So even if you need a 1-seat trial, you get all 25, and they do auto convert at the end of the month. So it's really important to make sure that you cancel if you do not want to move to a paid product, or you schedule the conversion in our schedule order manager to go from 25 seats down to 1 seat. And then again, NCE renewals also happen at 12 a.m. UTC. So if you need to make any changes to your existing NCE subscriptions, be mindful of that. And then Pax8, because we do consolidated billing for all vendors, our billing for Microsoft may look a little bit different than normal on NCE. So we bill in what we call a bill ahead motion. So we bill the first of the month, no matter what your renewal date is. And so if your renewal date is mid-month, you will still be charged for the full month. But if you do cancel or you move products at your renewal date mid-month, we do obviously give you your money back and make sure that you are only paying for the services that you need. And then again, for those annual subscriptions, we also bill on the first of the month, even if your renewal happens in the middle of the month. And so because of that, you may see a bill for a full 12 months plus a few extra days because we want to make sure that we're aligning that billing. However, when you renew a year after, if you choose not to renew that subscription, we will obviously, again, will refund you for any overpayments that you may have made to Pax8. And then, man, right, we went through a lot. And so where do you get all this information, right? That you had 20 minutes with me. That's not enough time to be able to understand all of this, and probably goes over your head. So our NCE blog, this is a blog that I personally write, and it's probably my favorite thing to go in and make sure that we're updating once a month. I feel like we can't keep up with the updates because Microsoft keeps putting updates out there. But this is where everything you need to know about NCE and your incentives and rebates, how nonprofit works, how upgrades work, trials, everything you need to know. It's in this place. We've had this blog up for a little over 2 years now, and it is the most read blog that we offer at Pax8. And the reason being is that NCE is complicated. And again, we want to make sure that it is easy for you and you have access to all of the information that you need in one place and are able to find everything. So check that out, please, if you haven't done so before and you're just a legacy only and you're like, the NCE is brand new for me. This is a great place to start. And then I think we're going to be dropping that link in the chat as well. And then just the last little reminder that CSP benefits did renew in October. And so if you haven't maybe signed up for a benefits package, when you move to NCE, everything will be done through MCI. So you do need to have a solutions partner designation, or new this year as of October 1st, you can have a legacy silver or gold membership if you have achieved any of those legacy silver or gold competencies. So I'm not going to go through this because, you know, it's a lot, but I just want to call out, be thinking about what benefits package you're on as well, because when these auto migrations happen, you do need to have a solution partner designation or a legacy silver or gold membership in order to continue earning those incentives and rebates. And with that, Pax8 platform inbox. Again, this is the place where you're going to get all of your communications around Microsoft. This is a place where you'll get that partner newsletter that we send out. So make sure that you're set up for an inbox and that you're choosing your preferences on how you want to receive the information to make sure that you get it, because we send out a lot regarding Microsoft. So ask your account rep if you're like, what is inbox? They can help walk you through it. But this is the best way to stay up to date as well on all things Microsoft. And with that, I think I'm turning it over to Mackenzie. So welcome.
Hi, thank you so much. Ashley, you're controlling the slides, right, for me? So I don't have to worry about that.
I am, Mackenzie. I am your wing woman over here.
Woo woo, awesome. Well, go ahead and go to the next slide. Let's kick this off. I'm definitely feeling the Monday and the daylight savings time and the November hibernation, like all the feels are really coming back. And right after this, I go straight to IT Nation. So if any of you are IT Nation, come and find me. I think we're giving away a Ducati, but legitimately, just like it Beyond. So nice to meet everyone. My name is Mackenzie Brown, VP of Security for Blackpoint Cyber. I think I'm going on month 8 or so within this position, but it has been incredible so far. And of course, because this is a Microsoft monthly update, it's really nice to be able to talk about some of the new things that we've added to our ecosystem more recently, but also things that we've had for a while, like our cloud response module. So I'm former Microsoft, so I do enjoy talking about this, and I do understand the pain of coming into a room and saying, hi, I'm from Microsoft, and getting things thrown at you sometimes. So the spiciness is understood on this side. I was actually an incident manager for the detection and response team. If you've ever worked with them or have heard of them, they are the global customer-facing incident response team for Microsoft as a whole. I compare it to like fantasy football, essentially, in the manager position, putting together teams that respond to advanced adversary investigations across all market verticals, global, regional. I think like my very first case I went to was in Albania, to put it in perspective. And I absolutely learned and loved everything about IR. Before that, of course, I was with Optiv for another 3 years. I actually came from the SLTT space. So from state government, state agency side of cybersecurity, and of course, an active advocate for women in tech and women in cyber specifically, both locally and whenever I can help out, I can. But more importantly is my why. I moved out of Microsoft to Blackpoint. The big decision maker was to get out of what our CEO calls the murder cleanup zone. So to get out of recovery and get out of response and move a little more left of boom. So I see that, especially when it comes to the channel and our partners, that there is this huge disconnect between IT and between the cybersecurity industry as a whole. So Blackpoint's trying to bridge those things. And we can go to the next slide. I know I have a little limited time, so I want to be a little bit more sensitive to time. So we have had our cloud response capabilities within our ecosystem, I think a little over 2 years now. That's gone live and been tested. If you're a current Blackpoint partner or you've talked to us, what I always like to do is start with eyes on glass. So kind of looking at some of the stats that our threat operations center is seeing. So to start from the left and then go a little bit right, to keep in mind, this is also the increase that we've seen over time of the amount of incidents, or I prefer to use the word security events, because we're a little bit more left of boom if you look at the attack chain of what we've seen. So just for Q3, we were able to determine 911 accounts were saved. And these could be in, you'll see on the right there on observations, I'd say almost half of them are business email compromise. And then the other half are going to be more specific to tenant-based compromise. So this could be compromise through enterprise applications, that could be some sort of tenant takeover, this could be exploiting multi-tenant trust chains that are already built in to those tenants, which is, of course, a lot where our partners sit. So we were able to say 911 total for Q3, but when I took this stat, it's actually, it wasn't the end of Q3 yet, so it's actually a little bit over that technically, but doesn't really matter. We'll round up. 233% increase in the amount of cases. So why we say this is when comparatively from April to the end of Q3, we went from in April in the spring, we were seeing 15 to 20 on average of our cloud response cases. And now we see 70 average. So we're going to guess probably by sometime next year, that's only going to increase a little bit more. And of course, as our partners increase with utilizing cloud response, we're going to see an increase there. The other observations besides business email compromise, the types of things that we do active response on in the cloud. And this isn't just looking at compromised accounts or potentially compromised accounts and navigating that in business email compromise, but it's also leveraging things that we commonly see, like alerts on atypical travel, which you can imagine within the channel. That's probably a pretty normal thing if you look at most business models out there. And of course, the work from home lifestyle or hybrid lifestyle that we live now. We see a lot of MFA bypass attempts. Now, I will preface this. That does not mean do not enable MFA. I will say that to my grave. I'll probably put it on my gravestone at this point, but please make sure that you enable MFA. But to keep in mind is we see a lot of SIM swapping, alert fatigue, and general bypass of token theft. Those are the MFA things that we're seeing out there, as well as inserting malicious enterprise applications. So this is putting in applications within an environment. I'm a bad guy, and it has global administrative access to that tenant. And now that application can view data, it can act as a global admin, it can do a lot of those things. So these are the things that we're actually responding to, our SOC is responding to on a daily basis. And you can go to the next slide for a little more details on some of the trends that we're seeing. Keep in mind, so Blackpoint Cyber is an MDR company. We are a SOC as a service. We provide 24/7. I'll go down the whole list of what we do. I typically don't talk about products that much. We have a large ecosystem, but we're one of the only companies that does live response because we have patented technology on M365. Also keep in mind, because of that, because we are SOC as a service, bad guy comes through the door, we want to stop the bad guy, we want to clean it up and move on. So we are so further left of boom where you look at things within the initial access stages or before it even gets to lateral movement. We typically don't have actual incidents that are full-on ransomware events because we're not designed to do that. We're designed to stop it as it comes in. So that comes to the cloud environment as well, not just traditional on-premises, but thinking about the cloud and the type of attack trends. This means initial access fits within business email compromise and all of the techniques like email forwarding, setting up mail rules, all of those that go within it, and other phishing trends to gain access and to exploit multiple users within one organization as fast as possible, and then go from there from a lateral movement side. But that multi-tenant trust exploitation is something too that I focus on a lot. Coming from the Microsoft world and the type of cloud investigations that we would perform, we're obviously right of boom at that point, but we would have to move backwards to determine what happened in the beginning, which maybe was a phishing email in the beginning, but it did come down to multi-tenant trust exploitation was a really common thing. Tenant takeover, kicking out global admins, and then or leveraging that tenant to be able to look for downstream other subtenants or child tenants at that point. The other interesting example attack that we recently saw a couple of weeks ago, I think you can go on our website or you can go on our LinkedIn page, and we did a live attack simulation of this because we find it really cool, and that's what our APG group likes to do. Is we see cool things in the SOC, well, we're going to emulate them in the attack simulation zone. So for this actually was, traditionally, we see bad guy gets on-prem and they want to move to the cloud. So whether they're leveraging shared cloud accounts or some sort of ADFS or AD Connect or something, right? They're going to migrate to the cloud. This was actually a targeting of the cloud environment so that they can move on-prem. So what they did is they actually leveraged Intune, which I'm sure many people here are aware of and what it's used for. And they created a remediation script that actually sent malware on-prem through some sort of encoded PowerShell command that pushed this Redline Stealer malware on a bunch of devices. That's where our SOC caught it, was with the attempted PowerShell execution. But it does keep in mind that means we have to move to the cloud, and we're concerned more so about the identity side and how it was compromised in the first place to be able to leverage Intune to move on-prem and exploit and compromise many devices. The key takeaways from all these cloud things I'm talking about is essentially, again, you can bypass MFA and you can do IP spoofing, but that doesn't matter. I will preface this and always have the caveat. That doesn't mean don't do it. Doesn't mean avoid it. Operationally, high best practice that we recommend for your downstream customers of just enable MFA and just start looking at single sign-on capabilities. The monitoring side is really where we see from the cloud response. We need to be able to move further left of boom, knowing what right of boom looks like. And for the cloud, it moves really fast. We can go to the next slide as well. So these are pretty self-explanatory, I would say. The cloud breach risks are pretty much the same as on-premises based traditional cybersecurity attacks, right? Really what I think about when I look at all of these potential cloud breach risks is I focus more so, because it's the cloud, the data leaks and exposure. And what we don't consider is sensitive or confidential information, especially when you look at business email compromise, or even just looking through tenants and looking at other potential targets that you want to hit. That data side can hit actually much larger than we expect in investigations, as well as determining whether or not data was even stolen at that point once you are starting to stop a threat actor in their stance. The reputational damage is also another one that I think I try to promote within the channel. The reputational damage of saying for your customers that you do want to focus on the cloud, you do want to improve the attack surface or reduce the attack surface essentially, and improve the security posture. If you aren't able to do that and a customer suffers an M365 layer of a breach, that reputational damage of, well, why didn't you see this? And typically it's also because this is not a sophisticated attack in most cases. The TTPs around cloud breaches aren't necessarily sophisticated, and it could have been thwarted from some sort of mitigating factor, but monitoring is the big one there, being able to identify that something funny is going on and stop it before it hits one of these other ones. The regulatory fines, I can talk about that all day long, but I feel like compliance, I need like a shot of tequila to be able to really like talk about it. But that's going to go hand in hand too with the data theft from there. And I'm trying to be sensitive to time, so we can go ahead and move to the next slide. Now, when it comes to what we do when it works with Microsoft, I talked a little bit about our patented technology around live response for M365. We integrate with all EDRs, by the way, but focusing more so on this being Microsoft, we have a heavy amount of users that do MDE. So we do 24/7 active cloud protection. This means looking for some of the tradecraft that I've already talked through. We do this also focusing on specific parts of Azure like Exchange, SharePoint, but Azure AD Identity or Entra. I feel someday I will remember to say it. I know this is probably why everyone doesn't like Microsoft, and I get it. I had to relearn branding every single month or every single quarter. So we'll just call it Azure AD for now. But we do active response within those areas because we know what type of hacker tradecraft to look for and then how to basically remediate. And then we recommend to our partners. We also like MDE because it gives us the simplification of client management, especially in these multi-tenant policy creations, especially with the easier licensing that they're creating. And I know you need a PhD to know Microsoft licensing, but ultimately that Defender for Endpoint being more widely accessible and usable to SME and SMB is a huge lift from them. Visibility into vulnerabilities. We have our own capabilities internally to do vulnerability management scanning. We typically do that for our partners or have our partners do it for all their downstream customers. But the key thing here is we also can leverage Defender for Endpoints vulnerability and threat scanning as well and bubble those up. And finally, of course, we're going to be doing the mapping to CIS. That's a big lift that we're focusing on right now. And of course, Q1 is to understand specifically what regulatory and or just general cyber frameworks we can leverage to improve our overall posture, but also to map it so they know what controls they are completing by using Blackpoint or using all of our products or some of our products within our ecosystem. And then finally, the 24/7 SOC monitoring. The big takeaway here is not only are we have the capability to manage DDR and to do MDR for detection and response, we take action. Blackpoint is we're going to take action. We're going to isolate. We are default security, meaning that we are not an opt-out. We will isolate accounts. We will do things, and then we will blow up the phone that we need of the person that is the point of contact. So the reason being is because we know how fast these threats can move, and it's a reduction of potential scope of damage, even if it's a false positive. So those alerts are managed from us, and we can determine between high and low fidelity and false positive and working with you. We also make sure that if it is a true event and it's a true positive cloud attack that potentially occurred, we're providing you not only remediation, best practices, but also we're educating our partners so that they can educate the customer downstream of here's what happened, here's why it happened. We mitigated it, we cleaned it up, we did a little bit more analysis. We're good here. We also recommend you doing XYZ to improve your overall posture. And then I think, is this, and then we have one more slide. If you want to go to the next slide too. The thing that we actually just announced finally too is single sign-on. So identity response for Azure AD just hit the market for us. Really excited. This is basically, in a nutshell, what we are focusing on isn't just doing live response on M365 on the users, but now we have the detection capability to focus on where that user specifically signed in from. So looking at those user agent strings, looking at the type of browser, we're looking at the details of it. And that also gives more visibility to your customer of what's approved. So whether they're going to managed application control, or maybe they're just simplifying or reconfiguring what their tenant allows, we can now have this SOC capability of responding to these types of, whether it's Azure AD or other third-party services being targeted at that point. I think I said that as fast as possible. Kristen, I think I'm good to go, right? That's everything.
You went
I don't know if there's questions.
Super excited. There is a couple questions in the chat. There's one in particular I want to ask, and then we'll get to the rest as Britton starts to go ahead. But the one that I wanted to talk about is there a minimum Microsoft license requirement, such as Business Premium versus maybe Exchange Online Plan 1? And how are the alerts communicated to the partner?
So I don't know if Melanie can help me with the minimum license question. That's a great question, and I can go pull that. What's funny is we're having our company all hands, so I'm sure I could go drop it because they're all in that chat and be like, hey, can someone answer this question? Let me get the answer to that one. And then as far as how alerts are communicated to a partner, if they're alerts and we're taking action on them, like it's a high fidelity bad thing that's going on, it's that type of information is when you're onboarded as a new customer, that type of information is figured out. It's not generally just going to be through email. We're going to be sending alerts like that, but we do a little bit more of what your traditional Overwatch would do. We're going to call you, leave messages. The device and or the users are going to be isolated and contained until the point of contact picks up the phone. So one way or another, we get held communicated back with, but we make sure that our analysts are picking up the phone and actually physically calling someone.
Awesome. All right, Mackenzie, thank you so much for joining. I like the multiple modes of communication. I feel like they're going to slide into your DMs on Instagram if you don't answer quick enough. So really great presentation. Appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Happy to be here.
All right. Miss Britton, thank you so much for joining. Ready to go through Defender for Business.
I am. Thanks for having me. Can you see the screen okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Mackenzie, great job. She laid so many tracks that I am happy to jump on and continue this conversation with a Defender for Business conversation with you today, because Blackpoint Cyber and Microsoft Defender are two very powerful choices that can really help MSPs protect their clients from cyber threats and manage the security posture of their entire organization. And if I've not gotten to speak with you yet, I'm Britton Tremblay-Benton. I am the Go-to-Market Solutions Director for Microsoft Modern Workplace and Microsoft Security here at Pax8. After watching such an incredible conversation around cybersecurity, it's not surprising if the question in your mind is, how do we keep up with the increasing security needs of the evolving digital ecosystems? The cloud that we were just talking about, with all of the security breaches that may come along with it, is still one of the light years away from some of the breaches that we faced when we were still living in our on-prem structures. So I think that we'll be able to go through some stuff you can practice right now today with your Microsoft business that can help you improve the security posture, as well as working with brands like Blackpoint Cyber to help with the monitoring of those choices. If I had to choose one answer for what to do, it's to be proactive. Because with security reporting, we continue to see that basic security hygiene can protect against 98% of attacks. And sometimes we could say in SMB, it may be even more than that, with many of these outlier attacks focusing on large enterprises, governments, healthcare systems, and other structural systems that have more advanced data and more advanced attacks than some of the SMBs that we're servicing right now today. The way you manage providing these protections to your customers is fundamental to your partner security practice and your business's success. And one way to define that business process is adopting a zero trust strategy as a proactive and integrated approach to security across all of the layers of the digital landscape. It explicitly and continuously verifies every transaction, asserting least privilege access, and relies on intelligence, advanced detection, and real-time response to threats. Zero trust strategy may seem complex if you think about the entire architecture and configuration, but the essence of the approach is simple. It follows three principles. Verify explicitly, because you don't know what you don't know. Always making security decisions using all of the available data points, including identity, location, device health, resource, data classification, and anomalies. Using least privileged access. Limiting access with just-in-time risk-based adaptive policies. Leaving no standing privileges wherever you can help it. And assuming breach. Minimizing blast radius with micro segmentation, end-to-end encryption, continuous monitoring, and automated threat detection and response. Before going deeper, let's examine the connection between securing access across identities and endpoints and a holistic zero trust architecture. So this is an example of a technical architecture for a zero trust framework. Tongue-tied. It extends to the entire digital real estate. So it's the identities, the endpoints, the data, the apps, the infrastructure, and the network. It should also be integrated via cross-workload capabilities, because a dynamic zero trust policy should include pervasive threat protection that relies on telemetry, threat intelligence, and analytics across the entire set of workloads. In designing a zero trust journey towards reference architecture like this, you could start with any pillar, depending on your business needs. But the most common approach that we see and that we're happy to guide in is starting with a strong foundation in securing identities and endpoints. Both identity and endpoint are essentially the new business perimeter that you must consider and is the first line of defense. Identity attacks are on the rise, and over 80% of breaches start with stolen credentials. At the same time, proliferation of bring your own device policies has created some of its own challenges. With Intra securely handling user identities, which deserves its own moment at another time, and we will have that, Microsoft Defender for Business is securely handling your endpoints for the SMB customer. It has 5 major pillars to the value that it's providing to you as a partner and to your customers. Threat and vulnerability management that helps you to prioritize and focus on the weaknesses that pose the most urgent and the highest risk to the business. By discovering, prioritizing, and remediating the vulnerabilities and misconfigurations, you can proactively build a secure foundation for your environment. Attack surface reduction reduces the attack surface across your devices and applications by using capabilities such as ransomware mitigation, application control, web protection, network firewalls, and attack surface reduction rules. Next generation protection helps to prevent and protect against threats at your front door with anti-malware and antivirus protection on your devices and in the cloud. Endpoint detection and response. You can get behavioral-based detection and response alerts, allowing you to identify persistent threats and remove them from the environment. Manual response actions within Defender for Business allow you to act on processes and files, while live response puts you in direct control of a device to help ensure that it is remediated, secured, and ready to move forward. And automated investigation and remediation helps to scale securely through the operations by examining alerts and taking immediate action to resolve some attacks for you. And by reducing that alert volume and remediating threats, Defender for Business allows you to prioritize tasks and focus on the more sophisticated threats that need your attention most. And the best part is remembering that Microsoft Defender for Business is included in Microsoft 365 Business Premium at no additional cost. It is enterprise-grade security for the SMB customer. So with this addition, Microsoft 365 Business Premium really offers an unparalleled and comprehensive suite from Teams and Office to the advanced endpoint security of Defender for Business, Defender for Office 365, protecting email and collaboration, Intune for managing your devices, both employee or company owned, and Intra ID P1 for identity protection, making it a perfect choice for unified security for the SMB, and a great step in your AI readiness journey because Business Premium now includes Bing Chat Enterprise. So tune in next month and we'll talk a little bit more about Bing Chat Enterprise. But now we'll talk about how Pax8 can help you secure your posture by strengthening it through these programs with us. Of course, Pax8 events, just like this one, will be holding globally in different regions on different topics for throughout the years to come. We'll get that FY24 schedule coming to you sooner than later to let you see where you'll be able to catch up with the teams near you and what they're teaching. But we also have Pax8 Academy, where you're able to go learn these always on classes and teach your incoming new employees, helping to onboard, helping to skill up, and to do things with the Pax8 team when we're not exactly in your city or when you're waiting for the next live event to come. We have data estate assessments that we can work with, whether you're looking to migrate in Azure or you're looking to strengthen security in Microsoft 365. Work with us to assess the tenants that you're in, and we can help you in getting some wonderful reporting that will give you clear view on what's going on so that you can make great decisions with your customer about the future state of their security. And last but not least, we're going to talk about professional services. So of course, we love to be able to bring these tools towards you to help you do things, but we know that there are some times where you would just like Pax8 to do it for you. And professional services help us do just that. There's one in particular that ties into everything that we've talked about today, so I want to talk about it. And that is the Microsoft 365 Business Premium and CIS deployment offer. So this actually will work on Business Premium, E3 or E5, any of your unified security SKUs. And what this is an offer to allow deployment of upgraded or new SKUs to CIS benchmarks. So we already heard Mackenzie talking about using those frameworks and setting the benchmarks where you want your security to be. And this is a place that Pax8 can hop in to help you do just that. If you already know that you're looking to upgrade some users into Business Premium, or you might be selling into new users using Business Premium, and you want to be on the best step forward first, reach out to us and let us help you with this. There are some regions where there are regional funding offers going on for this, depending on what it is that you're doing with your customer. So contact your CAMs. And I see Kristen, which might have a question about that. How can I help you, Kristen?
We've got a couple questions, and I was kind of saving them so we could get a few of them together. So any update on when the Microsoft Backup and Archive solutions are going to be available directly through Microsoft? I know they were at Inspire, but
so
what have you heard?
So those are part of the Microsoft Syntex family, which will be where you want to plug in to follow that journey if you're wanting to learn more about it. They have not given a black and white roadmap on those announcements, but yeah, thank you for asking.
Excellent. There's a few in the chat. I want to ask one more and we'll get to the rest right after. But asking about Defender for Business, is this in the Intune license? And so I think they're just asking, what specific license is Defender included in? And then what if the customer already has an EDR, such as Sentinel-1? Is there too much overlap, or do you see times where these may be paired together?
So we'll start with the first one. Microsoft Defender for Business is going to be looped into the Microsoft 365 Business Premium SKU, which does also have Intune in it. It's not that Defender actually rolls into Intune, but it is deployed through Intune, just like anything else that you would be doing with management there. So if you're looking for Intune and Defender for Business, then yes, Business Premium is the right place to be for that. You can also purchase Defender for Business as a standalone though. So if there is some other SKU that you're working in and you need to work your way into Business Premium, but you'd like to add it to a basic SKU or a standard SKU in the meantime, just to help with that endpoint management, we can certainly do that as well. But yes, if you're trying to get it all in one place, Business Premium is what we would recommend. And then your question right after that one was, Oh, about having more than one. So yeah, you would definitely want to look at what the options that you're choosing are. But yes, there are some reasons that you might want to add additional tools. You know, just like when we saw Blackpoint before this, that's monitoring on top of what is going on with your Defender SKUs within your tenant. So it's adding a whole extra layer of support. So just make sure that when you're making your decisions that you're seeing your needs be covered by the tools that you're choosing, but you certainly can use more than one security tool within your tenants. Was that, I think Kristen's off camera, so it looks like that might have been all of the questions that we had. And we'll wrap up with just the last couple things that I wanted to share with everyone today. So this is covering a little bit more about the CIS offer. So what I love about this so much is that it really does allow you to be proactive like we are asking you to be. You're able to go forward with your customers and very clearly share with them what you're going to do ahead of time and the reasons why you're going to do it by leaning on those industry experts like CIS as such a fantastic, real lighthouse of these benchmarks that they've created for us to follow. So please reach out to your CAMs, your XSEs, let them know if this is of interest to you, and we'll get you connected with the Pro Services team. And then the last couple of things I will share. Yes. Okay. So this is a workshop that is available for you to host. So if you know that you're ready to talk to some of your customers about business premium and you'd like for Pax8 to hop in to help, these are workshops that you can present with our help in the background that can actually help you get some funding from Microsoft for doing it. So not only do we want to help you implement, we want to help you get in front of your customers too. So again, reach out to your CAMs and your XSEs to let them know if you are interested in hosting a workshop, and we'll help you get that off the ground as well. Kristen, I think that is it for me unless you have any other questions.
We have some that we're going to answer in the background, but happy to move on.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
All right. It looks like we have Vandit coming up. Let's go ahead. How are you doing today, Vandit?
I'm doing well, Kristen. Thanks for asking. Just want to make sure you can see my screen, the slides.
Yes, sir. You're ready to go.
Perfect. I'm super excited to jump in and cover some of our recent enablement updates and what we have up on the radar. First, before we jump into what we're doing here at Pax8 and Microsoft, with the year winding down, just want to share out what's left of Microsoft Cloud Week. This week is Modern Work Week, so if you're looking to beef up your modern work skills, now's the time to register. And then the last one will be here at the beginning of December for Biz Apps. Cloud Week's a great time to accelerate your learning in each of these solution areas when you're pursuing a solutions partner designations. So if you're trying to ramp up your learning journey, if you're trying to achieve certifications for a specific designation, Cloud Week is a great place to start building that muscle. And then, talking about what we're doing here at Pax8 and Microsoft, one of the clouds that's near and dear to my heart is Dynamics 365 business applications. Here at Pax8, we're all in Dynamics 365. So we've launched a new landing page that's your directory for all things Dynamics, resources we have, who you can talk to, what's the strategy, all that information will be right there. So take a look at that page. Get started learning about Dynamics 365 and start accessing some of those resources right there. But alongside our landing page, we also have this blog that goes really deep into the whole Dynamics sales conversation. This is amazing because we had our Dynamics expert, Matt Batterby. I'm sure some of you have heard from him before on this webinar and some of our boot camps. So he took some time, went into this blog, and really delved into how you can differentiate your Biz Apps practice, how you can utilize Microsoft's new customer engagement methodology. What does the power of AI and Dynamics look like for your end clients? And then most importantly, how can you begin transacting and implementing Dynamics and Biz App solutions with Pax8 today? So we'll go ahead and drop this link in the chat window. That way you're able to take a look at the blog after this call and start looking at some of that information. Now, one of our other enablement sessions that we have coming up here are hands-on labs. Like I said, as we're winding down the rest of the year and we're getting closer to the holidays, we do have our last few hands-on labs here for November and December. So if you're looking for some modern work sessions or some Azure sessions, here's what we have on the calendar between November and December. Utilize that QR code and you'll be able to sign up right away for any of these. And it'll be a great experience to get hands-on with these specific solutions, learn how to deploy, implement them, and kind of learn the ins and outs of that specific tool set. Now, we've kind of talked about what we have, what's in market, but what's next here at Pax8 and Microsoft's enablement. So, like I said, we're going all in on Dynamics 365 and Biz Apps enablement. So as we go through the rest of this quarter, expect to see some new Academy courses around Biz Apps, things around Dynamics 365 sales, Business Central, customer experience, and the Power Platform. We'll be putting out courses around Power Apps, Power Platform, Power BI, so stay tuned for more there. And alongside our Biz Apps enablement, we're also beefing up our modern workplace enablement. We're working on new content all around Microsoft security, the power of Microsoft Teams and Teams Premium, Windows 365 and virtualization. And then TSI as well plays a big part of this. So we'll be putting out some nonprofit security courses. We'll be looking at what does the legacy to NCE migration looks like for nonprofit courses. And then finally, the burning question a lot of people have been asking, a lot of requests we've been getting, what are we looking to do around artificial intelligence and AI? So we're looking at putting out a few enablement resources for our partners around what does it mean to get ready for AI, right? How do you prepare for Copilot? How do you prepare your clients' technical environments to be able to take on that new capability? And then what does licensing and technical requirements look like as we go into 2024 and setting the stage for your end clients to start adopting and taking advantage of those AI services Microsoft's integrating into their license stack. But I'm talking about what's new. When all of this content drops, it'll be located in our new Microsoft Hub and Pax8 Academy. So here's your one-stop shop for all things Pax8 Microsoft enablement. Here's where we host all of our on-demand courses, the things I was talking about around Dynamics 365 and Biz Apps, Modern Workplace, Nonprofit, all of that information will be there. Hands-on lab registration pages are also there. So if you're looking for Azure and Modern Work hands-on labs at any point, as we continue to release those as the month goes on, that's where you'll find the latest dates. And then live streaming content too. So this webinar recording, our podcasts, all of those, once they're done and recorded, they're live on Academy for our partners to access, along with the presentation. So you'll be able to access all of those resources. And then lastly, just a great spot to get any updates and resources. The Microsoft Hub, the first couple tiles right at the top will be what's top of mind, what's important, what has Microsoft changed that you should stay up to date with. So if you haven't had a chance to visit it yet, please check out the new Microsoft Hub and Pax8 Academy. There's a lot of great content in there currently, and we're continuing to develop that as the quarter goes on and as we go into 2024, so we can really build out a robust enablement tool for all of our partners to use and access. But with that, if there's no questions, Kristen, I think I'm passing it back to you.
If you can go back to the hands-on labs, we've got lots of questions. I did post the link in the chat. People are asking for the QR code. You know, how often are these held? I mean, I know that these are specific to North America, but I know that there's other options in other regions. Can you tell me just a little bit about that, just because of the interest we're seeing here?
Yes. So the dates we have on the screen here are for North America. We typically like to do, I'd say, 4 hands-on labs in a month, 2 in Modern Work, 2 in Azure Labs here in North America. But we are starting to bring that over to our regions over out in EMEA and APAC, and we're starting around with 1 or 2 hands-on labs just to start priming the market, getting people used to it, seeing what it's about. And as interest starts to generate, as demand starts to generate, we'll probably look at introducing a few more of these hands-on labs, because I know over the past year here in North America, these hands-on labs have become one of our most popular technical events for our partners.
All righty, Vandit, we appreciate you as always. Thank you so much for jumping in today talking about enablement. So I do want to go ahead and move right on. Sorry, I think I might have messed up all the screen share. Madison, if you could go ahead and fix it, I'd appreciate it. Thanks, girlfriend. All right, so to close this out, we've talked a lot about, different Microsoft things that are happening. We've talked about vendors that are complementary to Microsoft. Last year, if you were able to attend Beyond 2023, you know, just not only the technical sessions, not only the parties, not only the community that Pax8 is aiming to help build in the channel. Highly, highly recommend that you get your ticket before we sell out for Beyond 2024, because we are on that track. But why not get it at a discounted rate? So all the way through the end of the year, it is going to be listed at $299. So go ahead and get that before the price bump, because that is going to happen January 1st. I know that our Microsoft team will be there. We've got so many vendors that are already planning on being there. So please make sure that you are registering. We hope to see you there. All right. I was trying. I really hope you all know I was really trying to get some of these links in the chat as Vandit was going. There are a ton of them. So as you know, this is available on demand. If you weren't able to get everything, or if you need to rewatch one specific part, there's all these links that are available. You can take a screenshot, or you can reach out to your account team. We are more than happy to make sure that you have all of these resources easily accessible. All right, I do want to jump back in, making sure that we don't have any other questions. I know we were working on the back end to catch up. It looks like we got our lab sessions all taken care of, and we have also linked in the Dynamics campaign. Vandit, I'm going to pull you back in for just a minute, because Dynamics is one of those interesting topics, and I know Matt's not here, so you're going to have to stand in for me, okay? So Dynamics can be a very costly part of your business to spin up. And us at Pax8, we're really saying, hey, you know what, it doesn't need to be. So we work through, you know, what's called a P2P process. And Vandit, can you just tell me a little bit more about how that P2P process works, and maybe demystify those acronyms that I kept throwing at you?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to jump in. So first off, we're going to take, what is P2P? P2P is partner to partner. So like you said, Dynamics 365 is one of those solutions that not everyone feels comfortable with, just because it's such an extensive solution when you're first getting into it. But Pax8 really wants to take that burden off of our partners. We have a few select partners inside of our network who are Dynamics experts. We've had the chance to meet with them. They've joined us on our Dynamics Bootcamp. They'll be joining us again for our next Dynamics Bootcamp here later this month. So if you want to hear more from them, they'll be there. But we want to get our partners who aren't so well versed in the Dynamics SKUs connected to these partners, so they can help you with that deployment and implementation part of it while you manage the sales cycle, the customer relationship. So think of it as partners teaming up together, not only to help their customer, but help each other get more comfortable with these solutions, build up your own technical know-how. And as you continue to deploy those solutions, build that muscle, you'll get comfortable, and hopefully we can see you introduced into our P2P program as well, and start getting you connected with new partners who enter our network that are looking to get started with Dynamics 365.
Absolutely. All right. I feel like you did, Matt, well. Thank you so much for going through that. If you guys have any questions, please continue to reach out to your account team. I know that there's a lot going on, especially with NCE happening, some dates, deadlines, the Januaries, the Julys, all of that good stuff. So thank you to all the presenters today, and I hope you all have a wonderful week. Happy November, everybody.